So stocks in the red, in record territory. They're in the green. I'm colorblind. Oil is off its highs. The U.S. has reportedly reached a deal with Iran to extend the ceasefire and launch nuclear talks, pending President Trump's approval. But with energy prices still high, new data is showing inflation is rearing its ugly head, 3.8% in April. And despite the U.S. and Iran trading fire again last night, the White House says America's preference is still a negotiated peace deal.
Diplomacy is always the first option, and we continue to work on that through your envoys, Mr. Woodcoff and Kushner and others, the vice president, who've been very involved. And if there's an agreement to be made, we want that to be made. I think there's been some progress and some interest, and we'll see over the next few hours and days whether progress could be made.
They are starting to give us the things that they have to give us, and if they do, that's great. And if they won't, then the man on my left is going to finish them off.
Okay, so we're understanding that there's some new news out there, which is that there is a 60-day ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran, and that the Americans are saying the blockades must be lifted, the strait must be open. You're seeing a mixed reaction here to a certain degree, because a 60-day deal isn't really anything new than we had before. Right. And the mixed part is the market is higher, and oil is actually trading at 88 and change right now. So I'm looking at this market and saying, what are they seeing about this deal that I'm not seeing?
Well, I don't know yet. The thing that bothers me about it is it now pushes it out until July, right? We're going to be if it's another 60 days from here, that puts us in July. And so I'm just curious, because we've done the last 60 days, and where'd we get, right? We didn't get anywhere. They push another 60 days. They say the negotiations are going fine, but that just gives Iran, in my mind, more time to continue to try to figure out how to do something negative, right? How to create more angst, because it's an election year. They know it is. They're trying to put Trump in a bad position. I'm not sure that I go for that.
Counterpoint to that, though, is we're financially squeezing them. The president has said no dust, no dollars. So you're not going to get a dollar of unfrozen assets or oil revenues until we get the uranium back. So you're squeezing them at the same time, even though they're plotting and planning. I agree. You're still squeezing them.
Right, but we've been squeezing them, right? This blockade has been on. They haven't any dollars for a while. We all know that they're starting to choke, yet they're not coming to the table to make that deal. And that's what makes me just a little bit, and I think the market's going to get tired of this back and forth. It wants to see a resolution.
It doesn't feel that way right now, in that the market is not tired, and oil is even dropping further.
So I can't figure out what the deal with the deal is on the Strait of Hormuz. Right. Okay, but my sense in looking at what the market's doing is this deal, my guess is it would have some provision that says Hormuz opens up. So for the next 60 days, unlike the last whatever days, which it was supposed to be open and it wasn't, this one would say it's got to be open.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Though, at what point? 60 days or sometime in the middle?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm just saying oil's down around 88 now, right, and yields have come down a little bit. So I'm looking at that and thinking it must be. If this deal actually opens the Strait of Hormuz, no Iranian tolls, no Oman tolls, ships go through, we're still there to guarantee it, then I think time flips from being on Iran's side, actually, to being on our side. Okay. That's what I'm paying attention to.
Okay, and I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just waiting to see when that happens. By now, I thought it should have already happened.
I agree. We all agree.
That's the frustration.
And as of Sunday night, the reports were that our defensive fire was in response to the Iranians laying mines in the strait again. Right. So I saw that and said, well, you know, we've made not a lot of progress. Point, right? Dagan, your thoughts?
The market's already factored in this happening, given the pullback in oil. Does it hang out here at 88? Because it was at 67 and change before the conflict started. And and the Wall Street Journal kind of laid this out a few days ago. No money for the regime. We're talking about in this 60-day period between the U.S. and Iran. The Strait of Hormuz would be unrestricted, but there would be humanitarian aid. But what does this on the other side of the 60 days look like? What about the ballistic missiles? What about no more aiding and abetting the terror proxies throughout the region? These are things that were never touched in President Obama's JCPOA. No money. again, how much was it? It was
24 billion.
It was 400 billion in the palace of cash, though, wasn't it? That Obama sent. They wanted 24 billion. If oil is coming out of Iran and they're able to sell it with no restrictions, that's money, and we know where those dollars go. So I don't mean to sound so negative, but big picture is there were only 38 days of actual war.
Right.
There have been roughly 50 days of ceasefire.
Right.
So there's been more no war than war.
Right, but they said today that Iran oil tankers are actually blockaded, that we're blockading them, so their oil is not getting out. The Iranian oil, if I read that headline.
Well, yeah,
correctly.
we're definitely blocked.
Right, so they're not getting that oil out.
There's so much different reporting on what is happening in the Strait, Lydia. It's hard to really get a picture from day to day. I mean, it sounds a little bit chaotic there.
Yeah, it sure does. And, one issue that President Trump touched on yesterday during the cabinet meeting was who's on the other side of the negotiations. And he mentioned that it seemed like they're talking to the right group now, which jumped out to me because it really illustrates the chaos and the confusion and how there are multiple factions within Iran now that are vying for power. When we talk about now this new 60-day ceasefire and a continuation for another 60 days, maybe that goes to the idea that, I don't know who's on the other side of the negotiations, but maybe they're really confident that the new set of people that they're talking to are able to have some type of agreement that they were not able to even broach beforehand. I think that's an optimistic take, but I'm not sure.
Listen, I think that's fair. The problem is, I don't think, who are we talking to? Because we've taken out 3 layers of the original layers. They're gone. So who, in fact, are we talking to? The RGC, this new potential regime? I mean, and they don't tell us that, right? So we don't know who we're talking to.
Right. I mean, regime change was never something that we were aiming for, but maybe part of what we accomplish here is actually that.
I'm starting to think that. I was starting to think at one point that we wouldn't see the Iranian people have the opportunity for it. But as this goes on longer, right. I wonder, and I personally believe, and this is complete speculation on my part, but I personally believe that because he's mentioned it so much, the president, the people of Iran, he was very angry about the executions happening earlier this year and wanting to, give them an opportunity to take back their country. Even those reports that came I don't know, a month ago or 6 weeks ago that the United States had sent weapons that were intercepted by the Kurds, but they were meant for the people to be able to take to the streets. I think he cares about that, and I think he would like to see that happen. He knows as a president that he can't have a hand in it. America can't have a hand in that. They have to do it. But you can create conditions that give them the opportunity. And when I see the currency the way it is, food is so expensive, the inflation they're experiencing, and these reports about the gas lines now, obviously that internet blackout has made it so we can't tell what's going on the ground. But I think the situation on the ground is far more dire.
Can I ask you, in the first hour, I sort of made a joke about this is a very hot ceasefire right now. But can I just ask, if we're doing another 60-day ceasefire, can that be a hot ceasefire too? And if so, are we talking about a ceasefire? Are we talking basically about Project Freedom by another name? In other words, this 60-day ceasefire is going to be us hitting any drone they send up, hitting any missile they set up defensively, and in the meantime, guaranteeing movement through the Strait of Hormuz. I know we're using language a little bit loosely right now, so I'm trying to understand the substance of this. The ceasefire, as it's been the last week, has not been ceased fire, okay? And if that's what this is, then maybe what we're talking about actually is something like Project Freedom, opening up the strait, claiming our right to be able to do that as an international waterway, but doing it in a way that still preserves whatever the heck negotiations we have right now. And if that's what we're doing, I kind of like that. I think that's a positive step forward.
I just want to add the reporting right now, as it stands, is that this reported agreement still needs President Trump's approval. This is coming from sources and reports that are out there. It hasn't been officially announced by the White House.
Right, but they cannot allow, whatever happens when it comes to the strait, they cannot allow Iran to start charging a toll in an international free waterway, because that then opens up a whole new can of worms to other places around the world where people are going to start to say, well, then we're going to start to charge
Treasury
a toll.
Secretary Bessent 2 hours ago said in a statement, the United States government will not tolerate any effort to impose a tolling system in the Strait of Hormuz. Oman, in particular, should know that the U.S. Treasury will aggressively target any actors involved directly or indirectly in facilitating tolls in the Strait, and any willing partners will be penalized. All nations should reject outright any efforts by Iran to disrupt the free flow of commerce. Tehran's days of terrorizing the region and the world are over. The blockade will be lifted based on during this 60-day period. And it's just, this is the period, like now the nuclear discussions about Iran's nuclear program begin. But, you know, I'm the root canal among the panel. And I just wanted to...
Won't you please think about the children?
No, you have to say it, the children. But I wanted to highlight what's been going on. I said the market and the energy markets have been anticipating this deal coming together. But wholesale gas prices have fallen up to about $3 a gallon in recent days. So that would indicate the U.S. retail prices falling about 10% over the next few days. Javier Blas at Bloomberg did this calculations. That would go from about $4.50 a gallon national average to about $4. And the average for gas in the country has been over $4 a gallon for the last 2 months. And just in the last day, the U.S. average for gasoline fell 3 cents per gallon. Sounds like not a lot, but it is. It's the largest single-day price drop in 17 and a half years. So there is relief that is starting to appear. And it's interesting, particularly as we enter the busy summer season.
Right.
So
That was not very root canal.
Right.
That was like a gentle cleaning right there.
But the media especially is, even regardless of whether it's right, left, or center, always likes to focus on prices are going up.
Right.
And they never talk about prices are coming down.
Right.
Right.
All right.